here. So thank you for the opportunity again. So export is, I've said here on this show and other programs in this radio station that export has to do with movements of goods and services across borders. So that's basic. You have to understand that, right? So to become an exporter, you have to be selling something, across international lines. So it's either you're selling a service, and in terms of service, it could be that you're a video editor, you're a website builder, website designer, graphic designer, you're a data scientist, you do data analysis, you're into cybersecurity, any of those soft skills, you have them, right? But you live in Nigeria, but you have clients overseas who pay for your services. You are a service exporter, right? And then you have commodities, right? Commodities has to do with everything manufactured, everything from the farm place, right? Exported across borders. That makes you an exporter. Now, why must you export in the current day Nigeria? The main reason is that many businesses are dying. From the last 8 years, the last government had a lot of bad policies that affected businesses, and so many businesses shut down. Many, what do you call them, multinational companies moved out of Nigeria and moved to Ghana because the cost of business and cost of production became very, very high. Not only did it become very high, Nigerians are not able to purchase like they used to do before. So that is to say that Nigerians started losing their purchasing power. When minimum wage is 30,000 and a person was earning 100,000, 15 years ago, or say 10 years ago, there are a number of things they could do with that money because inflation had not really gotten to where it is today. Their money could work for them. There's so many things they could do with 100,000 as monthly salary, right? Even a person who earned 30,000 could still live, could still get by on 30,000, right? But today we have an inflation rate of 26%, if it's not higher now, right? That means that the cost of things have become very, very expensive, right, in the market. And so many Nigerian families can't afford to buy a lot of things that they used to buy. So families are now quickly drawing up what we call in economics a scale of preference. A scale of preference is a list of what families allocate funds to. And so what they do on this scale of preference is that they put the most important items for the family at the top of the list and the less important things at the bottom of the list, right? So in current day Nigeria, gas, the cooking gas has become very luxurious, and so it's quickly moved into the luxury list, right? And so it's not on that list anymore. It's at the bottom. It's not tops on that list anymore. It's at the bottom of the list. Nigerians switched to charcoal as an alternative. Charcoal also has become very expensive, that it has quickly moved into the luxury list. Many Nigerians can't afford charcoal anymore. That's why every time you listen to the early morning shows on urban radio, you hear people crying. Nigerians are dying. Nigerians are suffering. People are really suffering. People can't feed. That's a fact. Many families can't feed. If you can't afford to buy charcoal, you can't afford to buy gas, you can't afford to buy kerosene, what are you going to afford? How can you cook for the family? So many Nigerian families are suffering. And so that means that all of the things that they used to comfortably allocate money to, they're not doing that anymore. And so any business that used to cater to those goods and commodities are suffering right now because their commodities are not getting family allocations. And so that's a big problem in Nigeria. And so we're saying that if you're a business person, you own a shop, you're a farmer, you have a shop at Ogbete or Kenyatta Market, right? Or you belong to a union of yam sellers or anything like that. We are saying that you're struggling right now to sell to Nigerians who are not earning enough, right? What we're saying that you need to do is that you have these commodities. You just simply need to, relocate your commodities from this dying economy to a booming economy. That's the fastest way you can survive in Nigeria today. Make sure that in your business, you're targeting foreign buyers. So if you're doing a business that deals with commodities imported, I think this is time for you to begin to rethink that business. It's not sustainable anymore. Dollar is selling at 1,140 naira. So for you to buy any imported goods from overseas, that means if that commodity is selling for $45, you have to gather 1,140 naira times $45 to buy that commodity, pay the cost of freight, pay the cost of transportation and clearance and all of that thing before you sell that to Nigerians. that commodity will become very expensive that Nigerians can't afford to buy them. And so really, you must rethink your business. What I'm saying is that you must rethink your business and switch to export. Because what that does for you is that you can take local made goods, you can take goods, raw materials from Nigeria, be it solid minerals, be it agriculture, agro products, be it agro-allied, be it FMGCs, that fast-moving, consumable moving goods, any of those. You just need to take them and relocate them to countries that need them, booming economies, right? Kenya is a good place for Nigerian commodities. South Africa is a good place for Nigerian commodities. East Africa in general is a good place for Nigerian commodities. They're buying a lot of our noodles. They're buying a lot of our fabrics. They're buying a lot of our, hair, this attachments and all of that.
Okay.
In West Africa, Togo is a good market for Nigerian goods. Ghana is as well. Senegal is, So there are so many countries in Africa that you can send your commodities to and earn in dollars. What happens is that every time you ship a commodity to any country outside Nigeria, they're not going to pay, well, of course, they will pay you in their local currencies. But what happens is that for you to send that money to Nigeria through a bank, you have to pay it into a bank account, and the bank will give you foreign currency in exchange. And so when the money comes into your bank account in Nigeria, into your domiciliary account, it's coming either as dollar, euro, pounds, yuan, or any of these foreign currencies. And that's a win-win for you, right? Now, a simple characteristic of every exported good commodity is that a commodity that is selling for, say this water, for example, is selling for about 220 naira in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. If you ship this to Kenya, for example, and they pay in Kenyan shillings, you'll be getting almost 4 times the amount of this, or even more. Some commodities you'll make as much as 400%, 1,000% profit on those commodities.
Okay.
So what that does for you is that one single commodity you're shipping out of Nigeria, when the money returns to Nigeria, gives you opportunity to buy 10 more with the profit made from that commodity. So export is key. Now, I had to lay this background for you to understand why you had to switch to export. Now, but I want to show you how we used to find export buyers. We used to do that by going for trade shows, and we talked about that yesterday when we discussed visas, right? Going for trade shows. Apart from trade shows, you do digital and social media marketing. But that kind of export depends on a buyer, an export buyer, finding your promotions. Say you post shea butter or bitter cola on Facebook. You do a beautiful ad and you put it on Facebook, and then you put a paid ad on it, right? And it begins to travel. Now, you have to wait for an export buyer who needs bitter cola to find that post, get interested, study it, and then call you back, right? While that works, it takes a little bit of time. But there's another way you can do exporting, and you have a steady cash flow of Forex all day long, all month round, all year round. And that's what we call trade houses, the trade house route, right? Mm-hmm. So Chimaka, what's the topic for today? The fastest way to become an export millionaire, right?
Yeah.
So what this means is that you have to re-strategize, and the strategy that I'm trying to teach you right now is that for some of you are wealthy, living in Nigeria and looking for where to invest your money. A banker told me a few weeks ago that she has a customer who's wealthy but doesn't know where to invest. Some of them have invested so much in real estate, they've gotten tired of real estate. They want to do something challenging. They don't want to do something exciting, something more exciting, right? And I told them, tell the customer, invest in exports, right? And so what is my advice for a customer like that? You're sitting down there and you're listening to me, you have the money, you don't know where to put it. Or you have a little bit of money, but you don't have all the money to do it alone. You can also do what we call cooperative exporting, that is community-based exporting.
I was about asking you that when it comes to exporting, is this something that can be done as a group?
Yes, you can do that, but let me finish the first first product, which is trade houses. Yeah. So what you need to do is, if you can afford it, if you can afford to rent a trade house, a warehouse in Nigeria, you can basically afford to rent a warehouse in Kenya. So what I'm telling you essentially is to lift your business in Nigeria, move it to Kenya. Right?
Or any other country.
But first of all, what you have to look out for is that the country you want to move your business to, look at their currency, look at the strength of their currency. That is key, right? If their currency is very strong, then it's a good country. If their currency is strong and they have population, and then they have what we call gross national, look at their gross national income. If their gross national income or income per capita is healthy, that's a good market for you. So all you simply need to do is lift your shop as it is in Nigeria. That shop you're begging your customers to come. That shop, lift it just as it is and move it to Kenya, move it to Tanzania, move it to any of these East African countries, move it to Senegal, any of these countries, even Cape Verde. The only thing is that Cape Verde is a small country, but their currency is strong, even stronger than that of Kenya, right? So find a commodity that these little African countries require from Nigeria, move it there.
So first and first, the person should carry out a proper research.
Research, yes. That's right. And of course, we can help you with some of that. You know, we've done all of that footwork, and so we can help advise you and all of that. But anyway, move that shop there and begin to sell. Open that shop there, put a salesperson there, and begin to sell. What happens is that every sale goes into the bank account that you would have opened in that country. Every sale you make. So every day you're making sales. You're not waiting for an export buyer to call you and then you go through the process of LCs and orders and contracts before you supply. No, you're just constantly moving goods there. They call you and they say, we're running out of noodles, so you ship another container of noodles, right? For example, in Kenya, our noodles are like burning like wildfire in Kenya. So you mean you ship one container of noodles and you're distributing right there in Kenya, collecting all that money. My sister, you're making money. You're making hard currency in Africa, right? And so when they call you, they say, hey, listen, we're running out of noodles. You know, you ship another one container or two. And other commodities like that from Nigeria. These things are cheap. Listen, Nigerians are crying. You know why Nigerians are crying? Because the income is not good enough. But commodities are really cheap in Nigeria compared to other countries. Anywhere in Africa, in Europe, commodities are really, really cheap. We're so blessed that our commodities are really cheap. But Nigerians think Nigeria is so expensive simply because Nigerians are not earning enough. If government will give Nigerians enough income, you'll find out that Nigeria is a great place to live. So you take these commodities that are cheap in Nigeria, ship them to these countries where they're sold for much more, and you make that money. When the money returns, it returns in hard currency, right into your bank account. You take your dollar, you go and change it to Naira. There's money everywhere. And then you ship some more. You do that all year round. By December, you take a vacation to Maldives, you know.
Okay, let's talk about cooperative exporting.
Yeah, so that's another way to do it. Now, I've talked about those who have money but don't know where to put it. Put it in this kind of exporting. Open a trade house in UK, right? I'll tell you how to do it in the UK and some European countries. But right now, there are people there who have 1 million, have 5 million, but know that it can't do this kind of export, right? But you may have 1 or 2 or 3 or even 10 friends that are in your class, societal class, and they have the kind of money you have. They have 1 million, 2 million, 5 million to spare, right? What can you do? Come together, you know, and do investment, how do you call it, community-based exporting. That is what you call cooperative. People do cooperative for farming, but you can do cooperative for real estate. You can do cooperative, you know, to build different businesses. You can do cooperatives for export, right? So what you simply need to do is find people in your social class that have the kind of money that you have and sell the idea to them, right? Or invite me to come and talk to them, right? I'll talk to them, I'll show them the benefits and how to do it. All of you will put that's your 5 million that wouldn't go far as, you know, individually. You put it together. Imagine you guys were 10 friends that have 5 million, can spare 5 million each, and that's 5 times 10. You know, that's a lot of money.
Okay, there's a question I want to ask.
Yeah, you'll ask in a minute, but let me just finish my thought. Yes, so y'all put that money together, and it's enough to open a warehouse anywhere in the world, right? And do inventory. But the great thing about this is that once you're able to open the warehouse and you do 1 or 2 shipments, and the money returns to your bank account, then you qualify for support from the federal government. The incentives that federal government gives to exporters, then you qualify because you've done 1 or 2 transactions that returned, you know, back to Nigeria as hard currency. Then some of these banks that have packages can come in and support your business and even give you more funds to ship more, basically. So that's how you do community-based exporting. Now, you're wondering, is it only 10 people? No, 20 people who can come together and put money together. Some people have village meetings. And in that village meeting, they have people, wealthy people, up to 50 people, wealthy people that want to do business together. You can come together and do community-based, exporting, where you open a trade house and begin to ship your goods to these trade houses and exchange that for a lot of money and hard currency for that matter.
Okay, so the last question I'm going to ask for today is, if someone is looking to go into exporting, what required amount should that person have?
Well, I've explained,
yes. If it's an individual.
Yes. Yeah. The first few episodes of this show, I explained that exporting is so sweet that you don't need to have money to become an exporter. Because the import buyer, that's what I mean, the export buyer, the overseas buyer, gives you money for the export. What you need money for is to set up your export business, set up your export funnel, which is a website, a couple of social media accounts, and begin to create content, right? You either have to pay somebody to create the content. If you have money, if you had the skills, you create it yourself, then you wouldn't have to, spend money. So essentially, export businesses don't cost a lot of money. So when you find a buyer from America, for example, that buyer, whether he wants to buy 10 or 50 containers, he sends you an LC. That LC is a letter that states the contract, the terms of this trade and how much this commodities will cost. When he sends that to you, his bank in America sends it to your bank in Nigeria, right? Based on that LC, the bank can give you money to fulfill that order, right? So you don't really have to have a lot of money to do that. So finally, I want to do this before we move into the promotion segment. For those of you who are interested in the European market to open up, export channels there, you can take advantage of what we call the branch office visa. So you can go to the UK, for example, the UK High Commission here, and apply for the branch office visa. You have a business here, and then you tell them you want to open a branch office in the UK. It's that simple. If you meet the qualifications, and of course it's usually that you have to have a certain amount of money. If you have that money, they'll grant you residency. That is residency. You're traveling with residency from Nigeria to the UK. You get there, you're a resident already, you rent a house, you rent your warehouse, you set up your warehouse there and start shipping goods from Nigeria to this warehouse in the UK, and you earn in UK pounds, right? This is a sure way to become an export millionaire, right? Take advantage of the branch office visa with the UK and a lot of other European countries, and this is the surest way to become an export millionaire.